All right, good afternoon. Great day to report back for fall camp in anticipation of our first game of the season, which will be August 31st here in the stadium versus a quality opponent. Want to make a quick update to our roster. Isaac Thompson, redshirt freshman, suffered a lower body injury last week. Will be out for fall camp. And do not have an update on that injury. We'll update that at the end of fall camp. All others are cleared, ready to practice, and should be reported in by now. We will have media availability here in a little bit, and then we'll have our team meeting, and then we'll have our first practice tomorrow. And I believe that Kaz has got with y'all on when media availability is, tried to situate it where we were having a press conference and updating you as we go. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Coach, through these first few days of fall camp, when they report to, through the rest of this week, what's your overall goal through these first days to see these guys?
Yeah, we've got overall goals for fall camp, and then we've got micro goals. One of the things that we're going to try to do in these first 3 days is really focus on togetherness. We're actually all moving into South Hall residence halls, and we'll be there through the first week, just to turn into, as Coach Chiswick used to say, NFL channel football 24/7. And so we'll be there focusing on building that camaraderie and team spirit. And then we'll be talking about our mental focus and what's our mindset going into these practices and camps. Then we'll have Edge Week, and then we'll finish off the week with execution and focusing on executing in critical situations.
Eli, your role in camp will be different. Will you roam around a little bit more if not doing what you had to do before with the offense? What do you expect?
Yeah, to be honest, my role's kind of similar to what I've always done in fall camp and in spring. Just because even in last year I would sit in meetings but then let Coach Hamden echo and relay the calls and handle the sidelines so that I could try to be an overseer of the entire program. So that won't change. I will bounce probably throughout meetings a little bit more, but still will focus on offense and quarterbacks as we get that situated and more settled. So I don't anticipate it too much changing.
Coach, what strengths do each quarterback possess, that you feel like can make this offense as dynamic as you want it to be?
Yeah, I think each one of them is gifted with a lot of different aspects of talent, a lot of similarities, but each has to play to their own strengths. I think when you talk about Brady Cook, obviously he's got experience playing on the field, toughness, speed, has to improve on the question marks from last season. Obviously, Sam Horn is big, long athlete, runs better than you expect, throws a accurate ball, has a playmaking ability, but lacks experience and game reps that he's going to have to create. And then obviously Jake Garcia is more athletic than you probably give him credit for, has a lot of arm talent, has played in multiple football games in his career, so he has that experience. His is just about getting comfortable with the players on this team relative to the wide receiver position. Dylan Leibel, similar to Jake in that he's got a really live arm, but having to get comfortable with the team in the process of how we do things. I think Jabari, we're still learning more and more about him, but haven't seen him in a real situation versus a defense yet. Brady missing spring, we're going to have to see how he goes, how quickly he reacclimates to the speed of the game. Sam and him have experienced, this is not their first fall camp, right? They've been through fall camp. They know what to expect, sort of. So those other two will be kind of learning on the run.
You've talked before about Luka Burton making the switch in his position and his role, but what else do you want to see from him as we get towards the season as a second-year guy, leadership, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think first we got to be more secure with the football. Obviously, we got to make better decisions as a punt returner than the last game that we played in. Obviously, continuing to develop how he practices. He had a really good offseason as far as diet, attention to detail, approach to off-season training and conditioning. He's leaner than he's ever been. He's got more muscle mass than he's ever been, probably faster than he's ever been, so a consistent work habit. And then obviously, finding value on special teams, whether that's on kickoff coverage or on punt or on punt return or kickoff return. How can he continue to help us affect the game outside of just playing the wide receiver position?
As far as your offensive line, what's the biggest thing you want to see at the start of camp? Is there anyone specifically that you want to see step up as well?
Well, I think obviously it's no secret that we have to be able to run the ball better and protect the quarterback, take hits off the quarterback. And so creating a cohesive unit, 5 working together as one. I think it's, there's a lot of moving parts in that situation right now. This is going to be Coach Jones's first practice with us. Obviously, we've brought in some transfers, so seeing those guys gel over the course of the next 25 practices is going to be important. I think having patience and watching that develop and making sure that we're seeing individual players develop as well as the cohesiveness of that group. And I also excited to see competition. I think it's the deepest offensive line that we've had from there's probably 8 to 9 guys that could end up being the starters, in 25 practices. So watching that unfold, I think, will be really fun.
Eli, we've obviously seen you guys have the something to prove motto going on. Just kind of talk about where that originated and what's the main thing that you guys are looking to prove.
Yeah, I think it really originated with kind of a conversation where we're not trying to prove that individually we're talented. We know that we've had talent on this football team. We want to prove that collectively we belong in our league and can play better than we have and produce better results than we have. And it's there's that component of hearing the noise and understanding that there's voices outside that don't believe in our abilities or what we could be or rankings and all that good stuff. But more importantly, it's about proving to each other the brotherhood that we want to prove to you that you were right to come back and develop into a player, or we want to prove to each other that I want to prove to the rest of the world how good of a coaching staff we really have. I want them to see it, but the only way they're going to see it is the results on the field. They're not going to believe us because we say it. They want to see the results. So instead of talking about it, it's about time to be about it.
How important is fall camp in terms of building that togetherness that you can block out the noise, as a team later in the season?
I think fall camp's now more important than probably it was maybe in the early 90s or early 2000s when you didn't have guys all summer and there were summer camps and you're trying to get them back. Now with the with the fluidity of your rosters throughout the year, I think these 25 practices, you create the identity for who you are as a team because you're solidified. You know who's going to be here, and they're committed to being here. They were here throughout the summer, and now they each have to find their role on this year's team.
Tyron Hoppers, I think, is one of those guys you might have been talking about where he comes back, he wants to prove he's an NFL guy, can be better. Where do you see him improving, and how does that start in camp?
I think Tyron has unlimited potential in front of him. I think, whether you ask Tyron that question, but for me, what I've seen from him is more of a commitment to his personal training and lifestyle habits, whether that's nutrition, the way he attacks the weight room, his body composition, what he looks like, his ability to study film and understand opponents, all of those things that he knew he could continue to grow in. And I've seen those, and then on the field, we'll let results speak for themselves.
Coach, what do you expect to see from the running back room in terms of passing game involvement this year?
Yeah, I think obviously first we got to figure out who has the best ability to run routes and create matchup problems. I think what you'll see in Coach Moore's offense is a variety of where the running back alignments are throughout, whether it's empty formations in the backfield. He does a really good job of utilizing those guys in multiple ways. And then, last year I think Cody demonstrated the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, and so did Nate. Jamal Roberts has some really good hands from what we've seen in June. So we'll see how that progresses in fall camp.
Obviously, Brett Nolte, the true freshman, but what are you expecting from him in his first fall camp, and the tight end room in general? What do you want them to work on?
Well, tight ends in general, we've got to be physical at the point of contact. We've got to be able to create opportunities for us in the pass game, and be consistently catching the football. I'm excited that Brett's here, and I know Brett's excited to be here, and I don't want to put any undue expectations on him. We want him to be the best version of himself that he can be, get acclimated to playing college football. But I think it's unfair to try to put too much on him too soon. But him and Jordan have both done a really nice job this summer.
Coach, you talked about retention and bringing back so many players or so many starters.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's what are your expectations from them coming back again, and also do you feel like there's an added expectation with them having?
There's an added expectation of leadership and understanding what the standards are, so that you're not having to keep coaching or recoaching the standard or expectation that you have for your program. And so these guys understand the expectations that we have, how we practice, how we go about our business on a day-to-day basis, what the processes are. So I think that's a good thing. But there is also an expectation for us that we understand that what you did last year has no bearing on what you're going to do this year. You have to recreate that value for yourself and the opportunities that you have for yourself every day through your process, how you work. And whether you're the quarterback, linebacker, tackle, punter, kickoff guy, every position on our team has competition, and the best players will play, and the best players earn it every day.
Is this a camp where you want to have a lot of live hitting, or you ease back? And sometimes it just depends on the depth you have, but is this unique at all?
We have a plan in place. The NCAAs come out and put some guidelines together, or rules that affect the amount of contact that you can have. You can only have 2 live scrimmages, and so there are some constraints on that. I don't think there's going to be we are a deep physical football team, and we've got to develop that physicality. I don't think there's a fine line between being tough and dumb tough. So we'll err on the side of just being tough. And we don't traditionally do live tackling 14 days into the first game. So first 3 weeks we'll be, as we get acclimated, start breaking it in. But after that mock game, we wouldn't have any more live tackling.
Coach, why do you guys feel comfortable moving Cameron Johnson in center? Just, even if it's an all-conference guard.
Well, it's all about competition. We're going to find the 5 best players, and so if he can snap, great. If he's not, if he gets beat out that position, then we're going to open up other positions for him to have the opportunity to compete. We're not stubborn to say, well, that's the only one that he's competing at. We want the best 5 offensive linemen, and he's had the ability to snap in the past, and so we want to see if he can do that to create competition with Connor.
Can Connor move outside? Is he a guy that can play tackle?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely think Connor's a guy that could play outside and play him some space. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that.
You talked about the competitiveness and deepness or depth of the wide receiver room. Can you just talk more about how can you get the most out of such a deep room at that position?
Yeah, I think we have done a really good job of recruiting and retaining the talent in that room, and it is deep, and there's a lot of different players that have a lot of different strengths. It's always going to be about competition, who provides the most value and who's the most consistent. And that's not just catching the ball. It's also about blocking on the perimeter, which we did not do nearly good enough last year. If you watch the tape, we were poor blockers on the perimeter. So we've got to be able to run the ball, block on the perimeter, block for each other, and then from that point it's about running routes, creating separation, making explosive plays, and breaking tackles. And whoever does that consistently throughout fall camp is going to have the most opportunities. Again, potential means ain't done it yet.
I think you called Mookie Mr. Consistent media days. What have you seen from him since the end of the season until now?
Yeah, I think Mookie's got an understanding of the process. Obviously, probably the oldest guy in our room from Dennis maybe, but he's been through the trials. He understands what it takes to be prepared for the opportunity in the moment. He trains with a purpose and an edge to him that is very consistent, and he's a guy that can really be counted on. We were having a booster function here Friday night, and he was out getting extra workout and making sure he was prepared for Monday's practice.
How beneficial can it be for the offense to be able to go against this defense and all the returners over there and all the experience there over the next few weeks?
Yeah, it's going to be both. It's going to be a benefit because if you're accomplishing some things against them that you're good enough, but it's also going to be a challenge because they're pretty good, and it's going to be hard to build that confidence. So it's going to be a fine line of making sure we can build confidence in our identity offensively. In fall camp, you want to get in your offense, not necessarily get in plays that beat our defense. And so you got to have that. As the head coach, I've got to make sure that I don't let our coordinators get too competitive and remind them that it's not about beating each other. It's about getting prepared for our first opponent and those guys after.
How much is Mekhi Miller continue to impress after his freshman season?
Yeah, I think, again, obviously he's similar, in my opinion, to Mookie Cooper as far as just Mr. Consistent, shows up, works really hard, doesn't say much, always has a smile to his face, doesn't get caught up in the hype of all the other players, just knows that he's going to show up every day and do the work and is going to be where he needs to be, make the catch when he needs to make the catch. And so I really feel confident that he will be a valuable member of that wide receiver room. And again, he may not have the most credit or get the most hype in the media aspect of it, but we know his value within our organization.
What have you seen from Coach Moore in his integration and preparation for his first season?
Yeah, I think Coach Moore obviously has a tremendous work ethic. He wouldn't be in the situation he's in now to be a coordinator in the SEC had he not developed an approach that's about work and focus and details. Spends countless hours studying film, Zooming with other colleagues to try to find an edge and picking the brains of a lot of other coaches to make sure that he's on the right track of how we're teaching concepts. So I know he's prepared for the opportunity in the moment, and now it'll be about trusting your preparation and then applying your instincts of what we need to do to push this button or subtract this, add that to make it fit Mizzou and what we're accomplishing this season.
You look at quarterback, obviously there's a lot of competition there between 4 different kind of players, but what other position battles have the most competition, or I guess a lot of players competing for one specific spot?
Well, to be real honest, I think on the offensive side of the ball, you look at the wide receiver room, there's a lot of guys that are all the one thing I know about wide receivers is they want to catch the football, and all of them want the ball a lot. So you got 10 guys that all want one football. So there's going to be a competition there about who goes out there first and who gets the opportunities and who really steps up consistently to make the plays. I think at the tight end position, you've got guys like Tyler Stevens coming back, but Max Wisner, Ryan Horskamp, obviously the 2 freshmen coming in that are talented and big, so that's an opportunity. We've talked about the offensive line. I think outside of the left tackle position, there's a lot of ways that thing could really go. So I think that position room has competition. Running back, I know we've got Cody Schrader and Nate Pete, but which one's going to emerge as the guy that consistently carries the football and is the guy that does the most for us consistently? And then you've got other guys wanting to prove who they are, whether it's Tavares Jones, Michael Cox, Jamal Roberts. So I think that position has depth and competition. On the defensive side of the ball, the edge position really, the defensive ends are edged for us. We've brought in 3 transfers. You're sliding out a Darius Robinson outside to play there. There's 8 guys there that all have the ability to earn that spot. Defensive tackle, with sliding out D-Rob, we've got 4 guys that played a ton of football. Who goes out there first, The safety position, you got to replace Martez Manuel. You got Dalen Carnell, who played quite a bit last year and was very productive. But then you've got Trevez Johnson, who started every game at the University of Florida, coming in to. He's coming in to play too. So you've got an incredible competition there. You got Sidney Williams, who transferred from Florida State, who's got the ability to play at a really high level, and so there's a lot of competition and competitive depth, which to me translates to finding your role, whether that's a starter or you're coming in the next, but how can you help affect us on special teams? How can we be better in coverage units on special teams, get our best players on the field in coverage units? Our punting position is wide open. Luke Bauer, Riley Williams are competing for that. The deep snapper position with Trey Flint and Brett LeBlanc. So we got a lot of different competitions that are fun because it lets you know that there's a lot of competitive depth.
Hiring Brandon Jones when you did probably wasn't ideal timing, but once you got him in here, you see him work, you feel like good situation, even though ideally, again, to lose a coach in March, it's probably not.
Yeah. I would say this, there's no such thing as ideal timing in college football anymore at all. So it is what it is. I think Coach Jones has done better than I expected, probably and better than I anticipated he would, as far as acclimating himself, both with our players, having a plan for individual player development as well as unit cohesiveness. He's done a great job of building relationships and showing the guys who he really is so that they can buy into his process of coaching. And now he's going to do what ultimately he's the best at, which is on the grass, coaching his guys and really molding that unit. And quite honestly, I anticipate him doing a really good job in moving that unit forward. That's the name of the game. Whether it was the coach last year, the coach this year, every one of our positions has to improve. We have to improve the product that we have. Whether that was from a talent standpoint, a production standpoint, a fundamental standpoint, overall we need to improve, and I anticipate that'll happen.
Anything else, Coach?
With so many guys that you want to get the ball to, right, you need a quarterback that's going to get them the ball, of course. What's kind of just the traits that you look for in the quarterback that you're going to move forward with throughout the season that you want?
Yeah. I think there's really 5 areas that as far as a quarterback that we look for, it's number 1 is toughness. What's their toughness factor? They got to be the toughest player on the team. I don't know if y'all have watched the Netflix series on quarterbacks, but there's a couple of conversations on there about the repetitive hits that they take and ability to get themselves back up and process that every single game. So you got to be tough, both physically and mentally, understanding that Twitter's not going to be your friend during the season. There's going to be good days and bad days, and you got to be able to approach it with that self-confidence that you have. So you got to have toughness, preparation, the ability to separate yourself from the competition by preparing for practice and the opportunity and the moments. We also believe that the confidence that you have in your performance will come from the preparation that you put in. The next one is decision making. We can coach you all day long, but when the ball is in your hand, what decisions are you going to make that put our team in the end zone, whether that's deciding to make the play, throw the ball down the field, or deciding to take the check down. We want them to play smart, not conservative. All right. We don't want the guy that's afraid to make the play, but we also don't want to be reckless with the ball in our hand. Accuracy. We got to be accurate throwing the football, and that's not just underneath. We've got to be more accurate down the field. We've got to be more accurate throwing the football down the field. And then the last one's leadership. How do your teammates respond to you? How do you positively affect this team when you get in that huddle or provide value on the sideline?
We're good? All right.
Thank you all. Appreciate y'all's time, and hopefully our guys do a great job with y'all answering questions.